Hello and welcome to the Tillage Edge with me, Michael Hennessy. This is your regular update for all your tillage news and advice. Most farmers are applying fertiliser this week, and all of the growers are trying to place the fertilisers as accurately as possible. Making sure the placement is even so there's no striping later in the year or overspills to the hedges are minimised is all very good practice. However, there's still a question as to whether the fertiliser that's being applied in the first place is the correct fertiliser. So today we're joined by Conor O'Callaghan, a Teagasc advisor in Dublin, and by Martin Ennis, a farmer in North County Dublin, to chat about precision application of fertilisers. Martin and Conor, you're very welcome. Conor, I want to come to you first and ask you about how important it is to soil test on farms, and how often are your clients assessing the soils on their farms?
Well, look, it's a very important part. It's where a farmer should start when he decide to go and grow a crop in a field. Look, I have clients that are sampling 25 to 30% of their farm annually now. They do this every year, and then within the 4 or 5 years, it's they have the whole farm sampled. Look, it's the starting point for a nutrient management plan to see what exactly the soil needs to grow the crop and to grow the crop efficiently. Is basically it's the starting point to see what's there in the soil. It's your canvas. It's like your bank, your nutrient bank to grow and feed the crops.
Okay. And Conor, when you get all the soil samples back and you're looking at the results from them and you're looking at the nutrient requirement, what do you think is the most important or perhaps even limiting factor that you take into consideration when doing up one of those nutrient management plans?
Well, the first thing I look at would be the pH and what the actual pH is of that sample that has come back. Because look, correcting the pH is the first stepping stone to a good, successful, sustainable fertilizer plant. So that's the first thing I look at, is the pH, and correcting whether a lime application is needed or not. And then I would address the P index and the K index for that particular sample, and form a plan then for the crop going forward from there.
Okay. And in terms of the overall kind of limiting factor you'd see on farms up around the Dublin direction, is it phosphate is the most limiting, that you're kind of restricted, or you can't get enough of, if you like?
I wouldn't say we have. It's predominantly we've heavy clay soils in Dublin, but look, there's pockets of maybe even high pH soils up on 7. We've this low pHs down even 5.8, 5.9. It's getting that corrected, as well as that with the heavy clay soils, we have the ability to have the P and the K on the soil for the crop, and we don't get a lot of nutrient leaching and runoff with these kind of soils. But no, we'd go from there.
It's not overly restricting then from putting a plan together, if you like.
No,
and just thinking about putting the plan together, Conor, for farmers. Obviously, soil results are going to come back from different fields, and they're going to have different levels of P and K on different fields. So therefore, there's a bit of a mix and match kind of needed. How does that practically work out in terms of putting a plan together for farmers? Because obviously, you don't want them going into fields 4 or 5 times just trying to match up the various bits and pieces. How do you try to assess that?
Well, basically, what we do is we look at each sample and where the need for the P and K is. And if we have an index 1 or 2 soil, well, we use the autumn sowing time to apply the P and K and incorporate into the seed bed, and we use that as a building tool to get out a bit of P and K onto that crop down into the seed bed. A lot of lads now have it's a split box drills that they're able to put the P and K down into the ground, and then we come back in the springtime then with our compound fertilizers and top them up then to the required levels that the nutrient management plan has indicated for us.
And for larger farms, Conor, do you have a scenario where you can get away with one compound mix, 5-5-25 or 9-6-22 or whatever it might be, or do you tend to have maybe 2 or 3 different compounds to make sure that you kind of get it just right?
We would probably more likely have 2 compounds. We'd probably have like a high P at around maybe 8 to 10 units of P, and then we'd have a low P between maybe 4 to 6 in P. And merchants around normally have a good stock of those in bulk and in bags. So where we have the high P indexes, we're able to go with the lower of compound for P, and vice versa for the low P sites, we're able to go with the high one. So it's predominantly 2 compounds, and maybe then the O's, the O1020 or O730, maybe to top up in places for K if it's a bit short.
Okay, thanks. Martin, delighted that you could join us today. Martin, just for our listeners, you might maybe give us just a small description of your farming setup in Dublin, types of who you're farming with, the crop areas, that kind of thing.
Hey, Michael, thanks very much. We're farming here, myself and my first cousin Paul, his father, which is my uncle Bertie, and Paul's son Sam. We're farming out here in North County Dublin, in a little village called the Knoll, between the Knoll and Garristown, actually. We're farming roughly in around 1,000 acres, with about 750 in tillage. The remainder is in grass, which would be mostly for hay and silage. That's really what we're at. We're at a good while now.
And in terms of the crops, Martin, are you heavily winter cereals or a bit of a mix between winter and spring?
We would have a mix, Michael. We'd have probably 75% would be winter corn, between winter barley and winter wheat, and then the remainder would be between beans and spring barley and spring wheat, Michael. Yeah, that would be the gist of it. Yeah.
Okay, so Martin, you're obviously got more interested in soil fertility and what that's bringing. Outline why you decided you were going to delve a bit more in depth into that soil fertility, and what were the first type of steps that you took to take that step?
Yeah, well, just over the past probably 6 years or so, farming all the same land. We've probably renting in about 150, 200 acres, and the rest is all owned ground. We got to know our ground pretty well, but we've seen, Michael, that some ground performing better than others, and we just wanted to look in to see why was this. Like, rule of thumb probably was from years gone by, we were just applying 2 ton of lime to the acre every 4 to 5 years, or maybe even longer. And I just got in contact with my agronomist, and we just started to delve into it to see was there other ways we could have a look into seeing what was happening. So we got put in touch with a fella that was doing grid sampling. Paul Ward was his name. So we just basically 4 years ago took a little bit of a risk, probably at the time, didn't really know what we were doing. We let him come in, and he grid sampled it on a quad. Every hectare was sampled, probably 6 or 8 samples taken in that hectare, of every hectare. And when we got the results back, it was just amazing to see the different pHs in the same field and other things as well, Michael.
Okay, and so that translated, I presume, then into some sort of a map, as you'd often see in farmers would often see different colory kind of maps, if you like, for the different pHs or Ps or Ks, I would presume. But how did you translate that into action on the farm? What did you do?
Yeah, well, it was very professionally done. As you say, you're given back a folder, and you could see each field, each hectare was coloured, and obviously the greener it got, the better it was, and the redder was lower. So from there straight away there was efficiencies. So the first step was to get lime onto them areas, and Paul had it. He had it all worked out, mapped out straight away how much lime was needed for the farm, and it was just a matter then of getting a contractor in, Michael, that would spread the lime on them areas. And as it turned out, a contractor here beside us was able to do it variable rate. So the spreader was able to turn on and off itself by being given a USB stick. We were able to spread the lime where it was needed. And what we seen straight away, Michael, was, and it was it took the risk out of it straight away for us was that the saving on lime on that first farm paid for the mapping straight away without doing anything else.
And tell me, can you remember the differential in terms of the variable rate of lime? Was it going from 0 to 3 tons maybe, or was it a bit narrower than that?
No, it was. Yeah, it was from 0 in straight lines in the field, from 0 at one end to 3 to 4 ton, even more than that in certain areas, Michael, that had to come back 2 years later to follow up on, to top up. It was just incredible, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's very interesting. We did, I suppose, a bit of analysis in Teagasc on a better farm that we had in the country, and you could see the savings in it. It was very easy to see. From memory, I think there was a saving of getting close to 50% in terms of overall lime in comparison to what you would have done overall. So, yeah, there's great savings. Conor, can I just come back to you for a second and just maybe ask you for the other clients that you have up in Dublin, are there many other people using this more in-depth precision technology? And maybe then for the people thinking about the people maybe who aren't, is there any barriers as you see it of why farmers mightn't be doing
it? They are, Michael. It's becoming more and more common practice on farms. Like as fertiliser and prices increase, lads are becoming more aware of it. And as Martin said, the potential saving on lime applications, they are, and as well as that, like with the lime applications, you're not putting lime where it's not needed, so you're not potentially having any lockup of nutrients that would be there for the crop. But no, it's definitely becoming more popular. I'm getting asked more and more questions about it. As regards the use of machinery for it, contractors around the area have the equipment that are able to do it. Farmers are availing of TAMS grants as well, that they're able to get the variable rate spreaders to do the variable rate, the fertilizers as well. So like it is becoming more common practice, and it's making their farms more profitable and sustainable.
And Conor, if somebody didn't necessarily, or a farmer didn't necessarily want to make the full step to where Martin is, and they just wanted to make the next best step, if you like, how should they maybe go about that?
Well, look, a simple step they can do is the next time that they're taking samples is to divide the field maybe and take smaller sample areas and divide the field in ways that they spread it and sow it with tram lines. So for example, if you take one area of the first 3 tram lines in your field and just sample the length of the field in those 3 tram lines, and then you go to the next set of tram, the next 3, and sample that area, or 4 tram lines and sample that area. That way, then when you get your samples back, and if there is a variance or a change in the samples, that you will be able to create a plan and a recommendation for fertiliser or lime specific to those tram lines, if there is a deviation in them.
Okay, a reasonable stepping stone, and presumably that the I suppose the soils along that tram line will all want to be pretty much the same as well, rather than just crossing over different soil types.
Yes, exactly.
So, Martin, can I just come back to you for a second? And you described a good bit about putting on lime and how that's how your results has helped to place that lime exactly where it's wanted. From the results coming from that, how have you seen those results coming in terms of farm outputs, grain yield or straw yield?
Yeah, well, what we've seen probably more recently over the past year and a half, 2 years, is that what would I say? That the good parts of the field, Michael, they aren't going to perform much better, but parts of the field that weren't performing, they are creeping up, and they're getting better and better, Michael. They're starting to level out, and we've seen that as we have now gone past 4 years of sampling, and we've resampled ground that we started with, and it's a much evener picture across that 70 acres where we started.
Okay, and is it just lime you're variable spreading, or are you also spreading peas and Ks as well?
No, we're doing everything now, Michael. A couple of years ago, we availed of the TAMS, and we bought ourselves a variable rate spreader. So Now we, just like you were chatting about there with blends and that sort of thing, I could go out and put a blend on of either 10-10-20 or 10-7-25, where I can then go back and chat to Paul, tell him what I've spread in the field, and he will give me maps. He will make maps up for me if I need to top up on certain parts. Might only take a quarter of a ton, might only take 100 kilos just to top up on certain parts in the field. So we're bringing everything to the top now. And
you're using straight products, straight phosphate and straight K for that, is it?
We are, yeah. We would be putting a blend on, but then we'd be just coming back with small bits to top up afterwards, yeah.
Okay. And tell me, for the people who are into equipment and machinery, what equipment did you buy for the fertilizer variable rate application?
We applied through the SAMs and we bought a route spreader. It's a 3.5 ton spreader, and it has it's fully GPS with a 750 screen with it, and we're just simply able to plug in the USB sticks, and it just shows up the fields straight away to spread. So it's just literally a matter of driving up and down the field. So just by that one machine, it's after opening everything up for us.
A plug and play, easy to use.
Oh, very easy, yeah. You could literally send anybody off on it, yeah.
That's what you want. Conor, can I just come back to you? And when Martin was talking there about he can see his field's fertility increasing. Looking at the soil samples from all your clients coming across in Dublin, how do you see that changing the soil fertility? Is it around the same over the last number of years? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse?
No, it's getting better. It's getting better, Michael, because clients are investing in their own land, especially own land. The clients would have in recent years. They haven't invested money in building soil fertility, the P's and K's, correcting the lime and building the P's and K's. So these are the farmers who are sampling the percentage of their land, their own land every year, and coming back. And then when I see samples coming back in after 3-4 years, definitely the fertility is building. And now those farmers are on a maintenance level every year, basically matching off takes from previous years and the crops that they're growing.
Martin, I want to leave the final word with you just on this podcast. In terms of the precision that you're doing at the moment, do you see yourself continuing to do that over the next few years?
Oh, absolutely, Michael. We would be of the opinion now that we're grid sampling every 4 years to see where we are to make the fields perform better, and we're going to continue to do that to try and get it up to that proper level. Definitely.
Okay, Martin, thanks very much, and Conor, thanks very much as well for today's podcast.
Thanks, Michael.
So that's it for the Tillage Edge, and my thanks to Martin and Conor for joining me. Don't forget, if you like this podcast, recommend it to a friend or colleague, and always rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcast or Spotify so you never miss an episode. And for more farming news, go to teagasc.ie. I'm Michael Hennessy. Thanks for listening. I'll be back next week with more tillage news and advice.